So yes, good morning again. We got the last few things packed into the sidecar, and just spent the morning packing the last few things away. Putting the old spare fridge that I've been using back in the shed, and the spare washing machine, and the old spare sofa, all that stuff that I've been living with for the last few weeks. And now it's time to ride. These saddlebags, these hard what would you call them? Hard leather, something like that. They're pretty useful. Not that I ever need them much with the sidecar, but they're pretty useful, but it does make it a bit awkward to get on and off the bike with the sidecar there as well, So, get the big girl on the road. Goodbye, old girl, old house. It's not the house Mahal, but I've always loved living there, and I'll come back there, of course. Miles to go down the main street. Yep, servo's closed. Try Black Mountain. There's a few cars parked near the middle pub, so I suppose that's where we're gonna see the beers and two up today after the service that was down the road here earlier on. We got you young kiddies. Hello, you young kiddies. The big girl. And there's a little old soldier's hall there. Got some poppies out. Wait for it. So, ANZAC Day. For those of you who aren't familiar with Australian history at all, on the 25th of April 1915, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, ANZAC, landed at Gallipoli in a campaign against the Turks. One of Winston Churchill's bright ideas, actually. And they were going to sort of, cut off the Turkish Empire and all that, the Ottoman Empire. Just making sure I got my wallet, got my phone. Along with there was a series of landings around that, so the Dardanelles area, including, you know, by the British Army as well. I think there may have been some French contingents, French colonial troops as well, I think. Anyway, the campaign was a complete disaster. You know, they basically managed to get to the top of the slopes, you know, the coastal crags at the big, right off the beachhead, dig in and stay there for 8 months, and that's as far as they ever got, the Australians and the Brits all together. The usual First World War massive casualties, you know, and plus the usual sort of trench warfare stuff going on, you know, and dysentery and trench foot and typhus and all the stuff that you get, not to mention enemy bullets and grenades and artillery. The only successful part of that entire campaign essentially was the successful evacuation of the troops roughly 8 months later. And ever since then, Australia has celebrated ANZAC Day, which is a curious thing, really. That's sort of part of that Australian irony stuff goes on, I suppose, that we celebrate as a kind of a national day a military defeat. You know, that's essentially what it is. Now, right or wrong about, you know, wars and who starts them and what the wars are about. You know, my father, who had a Master of Letters in History, he argued that the First World War was essentially a trade war. You know, the older colonialists, British Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, French, and the new kids on the block, the Germans, you know, were starting to pinch some of the trade and colonial possessions off the older ones, and they didn't like it. The Germans, knowing that war was going to be inevitable, decided to launch a preemptive strike, you know, which in the modern parlance, that's what it is. That's what it was, a preemptive strike. The von Schlieffen plan, you know, that took them through blah blah blah, which essentially failed and led to 4 years of bloodthirsty trench warfare, which of course we're seeing repeated at this very moment in parts of the Ukraine. I'm thinking about overtaking this guy, but I've got to go to Black Mountain and fill up with fuel anyway. Anyway, my point about rightly or wrongly, etc., is that, you know, whilst I, in a general sense, virtually never agree with the reasons for going to war, you know, usually it's the same old people make the same profits, and the same old people make the biggest sacrifices, and off we go every time, you know. But I never condemn the soldiers on any side. They're just soldiers doing their thing. You know, Australians might say, or Americans or Brits might say they were fighting for freedom. Germans would say the same thing, or they would just say simply, I was serving my country. And we all guffaw at that, but all depends on who wins the war as to who writes the history, of course. That's enough of my bloody rant for the day. Why is everybody on the wrong side? That's the trouble with having a sidecar, of course, is you've got to get around so you can get the fuel hose on the right hand side. Get some juice, eh? So now we're just outside Guyra, about 40 k's from Walcha, where we'll get some more fuel and probably get something to eat. Don't really need the fuel as such, but you get to a point here after Walcha, there's no fuel basically till Gloucester, so it's not quite, it's just a bit too far from Guyra. Now it's as you can see, it's quite grey. There's been some spits of rain. And actually I'm not very prepared for a wet ride, I realise, and just put on some warmer gloves. It's ANZAC Day, and I guess that's usually the big turn in the season where we're supposed to get our first frost and all that, but we've already had a couple of frosts this year. Hopefully the weather won't close in too much. It's not that warm, it must be said. I've discovered now. And now there are big spots of rain again. Now Thunderbolt's Way is an interesting road. We're on Thunderbolts now. It's rough as guts. You know, there's a lot of good corners and stuff, and particularly as you're going down the hill towards Gloucester, but you know, generally speaking, the road conditions are just piss poor. However, we shall persevere. Probably get fuel at Walcha and maybe a bit of lunch too, actually. Some road food. So it's a pretty popular road for bikes, Thunderbolts. It's challenging enough. But it's got to be said, with the sidecar on, it's better going up than going down. Today we're going down. It's just that thing with the chair. If you're going uphill, you can stick, you know, keep the power on better. Beautiful countryside. Love the New England. may have mentioned that before. The camber just changes on this road, on this corner, which is weird. See the autumnal colours are starting to kick in. You know, when you see the you know, the European type exotic deciduous trees. I'm trying to keep the speed down a bit today. I've already passed the cop once. I was doing about 115 or so, and he let me go. So yeah, righto, on a, you know, stretch the friendship. So we've got these gloves. Bought them, I don't know, not that long ago, a year or so ago, I can't remember. They're that sort of thinsulate material with leather pieces. And they're not bad, you know, they're okay. I mean, it's certainly a lot cooler than recent months riding, you know, but now it's autumn and winter coming up, you know, so. And, yeah, we've got the heater grips if we get too cold, of course. Those heater grips, as you can see, are Oxford heater grips, and they've got a few settings, and I always, you know, I've always found them to be very good. I don't know whether I'll put a set on the old girl, on the Evo. But I'll certainly put some on the K100 when I get it on the road. Come on, let's have some of that blue sky. That'll be nice. Might have to stop and put on some more clothes. I've only got a t-shirt and a jumper. I should probably put an old flannelette shirt on underneath the jumper. That'll help a lot. I mean, it's not that cold. I'm just being a bloody pussy. I guess I wanted this road, you know, the last ride on the big girl, to be a nice warm sunny day. But as you can see, it's not. However, when we get down the bottom of the hill, it's bound to be 3 to 5 degrees warmer anyway. Bit of a crosswind blowing along there. Just get that little bit of sunlight and you can feel the difference, you know. been talking about the difference between this and the Evo in regards to the ride and the suspension, and how this big girl moves around a fair bit. Now, because I realised the other day that I've actually got everything, front and rear shocks and stuff, on their very softest setting, so I could always adjust that if I wanted to. But I don't mind, I'm just used to it. Big girl. She's a lovely girl. Been a while since I was on this road. Normally when I go for a ride to Walcha or something, I go, you know, through Kentucky, Wallam that way, or down to Benamir and up the Oxley through Woolbrook or something like that. Not often that I actually just stick on Thunderbolts. What was that? Was that a sign saying 40 hidden behind a bush? Fucking useless. Thunderbolt's way. I don't know whether you know about Captain Thunderbolt. He was a bush ranger. I mentioned him the other day, didn't I? I was coming through Urella back there. And he used to get around and, you know, rob people. You know, it's curious, isn't it, how we romanticise criminals, essentially. Yeah, so, and he operated between down at Gloucester way, up north of Guyra, up to, I don't know how far, probably all the way along the New England, along the range, you know, the spine. You know, and they called him Captain Thunderbolt. I suppose that was a sort of a sign of, I don't know whether he had been a captain or not in the military, wouldn't know. Anyway, I assume he got caught and hanged eventually, like they all did, or shot, you know. Every man these dogs got bloody flashing lights on their cars these days. They're supposed to be on emergency vehicles. I see a fucking speed camera. Oh, he is too. Speed camera. Which could be a, you know, an invitation to slow down a bit. Not that I'm going fast, you know, but going faster than the speed limit. And the old Triumph, you know, she doesn't like going too slow. You know, if you're sitting on 100, you're only just in top gear and it doesn't really like it. You can see why people don't keep their licences very long on a Rocket 3, particularly if it's a solo bike without the chair, you know. Trying to work out whether that's mural or bloody rust repairs. Still don't know. And that's why I buy a Rocket 3, you know, so you just overtake people, even with the sidecar. I didn't have to go back here, I just do that because I do it. You know, something to do, livens things up, you know. Through that countryside. You know, it's well into autumn now and it's still as green as hell. The cows are fat and happy. Well, they'll be fat and happy until they end up at the abattoirs, of course. I won't be so happy then. I sound like a vegan. Just want you to know that I'm not. I'm a vegetarian with bacon. My wife's a vegetarian. Well, I'm a vegetarian with bacon because eventually, you know, essentially whatever she cooks I'll eat. I don't care. As green can be. Chook chasers or whatever they are. Hyper fucktards, what are they? Motards, that's it. Maybe like that, sure. They're on a motorbike. Be nice. I spent the other day lecturing everybody about how you shouldn't be, you know, brand snobs or whatever. Now I'm doing the same thing. Little old settler's cottage there. Be like that. I mean, no one lives there, obviously. I guess it'll eventually slowly just fall down. Unless someone slaps a, you know, heritage listing on it or something. Yeah, I love the New England. You know, I guess one of the reasons why I've always liked the New England, of course, is that it reminds me of Europe. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I like Europe so much because, you know, this is what I've always liked here in Australia, this part of Australia. probably put a bit of weight in the sidecar before they go hooning down the hill around corners and stuff. There's not much in there. No, it's not the kind of sidecar that wants to lift a lot anyway. And I don't ride them fast anyway, as you know. All the new cows. Pumping slowly in the Walcha, where we'll get food and petrol. Probably a reason why I'm feeling a little bit cold. I probably need some tucker in me. Some of that good tucker in there. What are those new cars doing down there, eh? My wife, Kerry, has been booked in Walcha a couple of times, you know, for doing 65 or so in the 50 zone. You just got to be a bit careful. And the coppers, you know, the gendarmes, you know, they sit up here where you're getting close to the 100 zone on the way out and stuff like that, and get you when you get too enthusiastic. No, well, you know. Downtown Walcha. Seems like ages since I've been over here. I mean, it's probably not. It just seems like it. Geez, I tell you what, fuel is very expensive at the moment, and it's more expensive. Like, it's gone up 20 cents a litre since I went down to the entrance the other day. Bloody unbelievable.